When you understand anthropology as a particular topic, the PYQs, they are utterly important. They are important in designing the themes for your learning. They are important for understanding the line in which you will read up for anthropology. But the problem appears when you limit the sources, when you limit to a particular book, to a particular notes, or to a particular book, or to a particular normal content. There are certain standard books which are to be understood, and they take into account the basic lineage of PYQs also. There's no misconception about it. Anthropology is one of the easiest optional that you have. It is an easy optional for as far as syllabus is considered, as far as understanding is considered. The basic understanding helps you fetch out the topics in anthropology. How do we write this particular question? Obviously, the first aspect of this particular question has been identifying the context of this particular question. The context would be creating that link of power, ecology, and then the biological phenomena, which would be the introduction of it. Now, the main body, when it comes into the answer writing, main body would have been how these different things are being linked up with the theoretical or the hypothetical functions also, where we could have taken up various things like the world systems, how they operate, how resources are distributed at the global level. So what exactly is the role of PYQ in your preparation? The role of PYQ in your preparation would be, the relevance of PYQ in your preparation would be, obviously, it helps to identify the themes that we have in our syllabus. But don't get trapped by this particular idea of themes from PYQ, because obviously that trap is leading towards a kind of constricted learning or kind of constricted reading also. Another aspect of PYQ, why it is so relevant for you, or previous year questions, why they are relevant to you, it brings in a link between the preparation and the presentation. Hello dear students, this is Dr. Saurabh Jain at Drishti IAS. I am faculty for anthropology. In this video, we'll discuss about what is the significance of PYQ in making a good answer for anthropology. And also we'll understand what has been the nature of previous year questions in anthropology and how they have differed or how they have been framed, or what exactly is the line for anthropology related previous year questions, and how effectively they can help you in your preparation during the duration of your preparation. Right. If you have taken anthropology, one thing that is buzzing around is 2025 paper has been the most toughest, the way out of league paper, or questions have been tough. There were certain questions which were very new. There were certain questions which students faced difficulty in attempting, and then they started questioning their attempt also. They started questioning one particular thing, that obviously whether they have taken anthropology, is it a good decision or not? They should change the optional also. There are multiple things which are buzzing around, which has happened with 2025 paper. But 2025 paper has established a new method of understanding or looking into the PYQs, a new perspective of looking into PYQs also. When you understand the overall anthropology related previous year questions, the questions earlier, they might look like static questions, or topics are constantly being revised, and that has created one aspect that, okay fine, there are certain sets of topics, there are certain sets of themes around which the questions are revolving, and we must look into the questions up to this particular depth itself. What has happened in 2025? The UPSC has created an interdisciplinary depth itself. Right? There are certain topics which have been asked from a depth itself. Right? So when you understand anthropology as a particular topic, the PYQs, they are utterly important. They are important in designing the themes for your learning. They are important for understanding the line in which you will read up for anthropology. But the problem appears when you limit the sources, when you limit to a particular book, to a particular notes, or to a particular book, or to a particular normal content. There are certain standard books which are to be understood, and they take into account the basic lineage of PYQs also. So you'll understand how the previous year questions have been created. Now we understand anthropology. Of course, anthropology is one of the most desiring subject that we have. The toppers have gained much more higher marks also, the average success rate across anthropology has been much more higher. So anthropology is something which is a good optional for people opting for humanities, people opting from science background also. But the problem over here is with the psyche, the basic psyche of these students, that anthropology has become, is now redundant. It would not be deterministic. It would not be something which would fetch more marks, because there are questions which have appeared uh, from unknown sources, or there are questions which are tough. Now it is not easy to prepare anthropology. These are all misconceptions which have appeared. There's no misconception about it. Anthropology is one of the easiest optional that you have. It is an easy optional for as far as syllabus is considered, as far as understanding is considered. The basic understanding helps you fetch out the topics in anthropology, right? It's just a general understanding of, say, GS topics itself, or if you have read GS or you are reading GS, that will help you out in understanding anthropology, and vice versa also. Anthropology helps you understand the GS based topics also, right? So it is an easy optional. It is there with constancy also. And the misconception that originates is with the type of questions. And obviously, when we look into the type of questions in anthropology, majority of the questions in anthropology, they are fixed. They are not very much dynamic, right? When we look into majority of the questions in anthropology, 30% of the questions, they appear from these which have a similarity in the topics from previous year questions. Like for example, if you look into the questions also over here, you have a question relative to the holistic spirit of anthropology and its discipline. I have taken the questions which are more easier ones, or questions which are more familiar to the students, right? The synergizing the core branches of anthropology reinvigorates the holistic spirit of the discipline. Now, the similar nature, when you look into the holistic spirit, when you read about this, the holism in anthropology, you read about the systematic nature of anthropology, the objective nature of anthropology, and why it is an holistic study. You understand how anthropology looks into inter-perspectives of all different branches, and how it brings in a core branch which is more systematic. Why? Because it is more scientific, it goes into researches, it understands the more open-ended data also, right? It is more observer-based hypothesis, so it is more systematic, it is more objective, it is more directed towards a particular target, right? So it is just the same topic that we understand over here. These are the nature of PYQs that you see. Now again, you see PYQ over here, the Mesolithic rock patterns in Indian subcontinent. A similar question appeared in 2023, where the Mesolithic sites have been understood and the typotechnological features have been understood over there. Right? Similar nature of question. They have a similarity. Now, human rights and cultural relativism appeared in 2020, and cultural relativism has been understood, has been spoken of across various PYQs also, right? So these are those nature of questions which are there, the topics which are there, and they account for approximately 30% of the questions that we see in anthropology. The second nature of questions are those which are the analytical understanding of previous year questions. What has been asked in previous year, what was the topic in the previous year, and evolution in that particular topic, the rephrased version of that particular topic, or we can say a debatable version of that particular topic is being asked, and these are again the easier questions that we find. You look into these questions again. The biocultural approach is the hallmark of biocultural or biological anthropology, explained, which appeared in 2021. And another question that appeared was critically discuss the synergistic effect of biological and cultural factors in human evolution. All the most similar line of the question, just a difference appears over here. In this, you understand how the biological evolution and cultural evolution, they are interlinked. Now again, the similar aspect of it, the criticism of it is why standalone biological evolution is criticizing, why standalone cultural evolution is criticizing, by holistically, when they come in synergism to each other, or when they come in complementarity to each other, they become the most acceptable understanding of human evolution also, which is the question. Again, the analytical interlink is always there in the such type of the questions. Or you understand the historical particularism of Franz Boas, and the historical particularism of Franz Boas and the critical development to classical evolutionism, how it has evolved into these, or what exactly is the link between these, is something which we see in the type and nature of questions that we appear over here. So now you see that the previous year questions that you understand over here, or previous year questions that you look into anthropology, accounts for approximately 75% of the questions which have been asked. Right? So whether it is tough? No, it is not tough. Although most things are in a singular track, although most things are not that distracting, it is just that we have to understand the nature of things that has appeared and how these nature of things may evolve into the other nature of questions also. Right? Now, obviously, it is not so that it is always as simple as that. There are new topics, and UPSC has a kind of habit of giving a surprise. And there are approximately 20 to 25% of the new topics which are also being asked. Now, of course, these are new topics. As far as the lineage is considered, these are not new. The depth is considered, they are new. Like, for example, if you look into the type of questions that we have seen, even in 2025, which has been debated as the most unpredictable paper for anthropology, or something which hasn't appeared in the earlier years. Right? If you look into this, then obviously a question over the Purum kinship system which has been asked, it is there in the standard books. It is there in understanding and reading also. Just we skip out while we preparing. Now it is not the problem with UPSC. Sometimes problems appears with us also. Right? Then osteodontoceretic culture of Australopithecus. Now when we understand Australopithecus, we look into Australopithecus. Okay, fine, what has been the Australopithecus development, the primate development, and how four different Australopithecus they have been spoken of. Australopithecus africanus has been discussed, how it was looking into, what it was doing, all that. And just a line is being spoken of in that, which is Australopithecus africanus may have used tools used of stones and bones. Now, that is what osteodontoceretic culture is, which is where it is being asked. Right? It is a debatable thing. It is a controversial thing. Raymond Dart has proposed this particular thing, and it was then under controversy. It has been criticized and has now not been accepted as a culture of Australopithecus, but still has been discussed. Right? Which is being asked. Then Miocene hominoids. Miocene hominoids, when you look into the overall development of humans, you start from primates, from the Miocene, the early Miocene, the late Miocene, the Eocene ones, and then the overall development of humans up to Homo sapiens. From Proconsul to Homo sapiens, the overall development has to be understood. Now, obviously, Miocene hominoids, they are also being discussed. We discuss about Dryopithecus, or we also discuss about the Ramapithecus or the Sivapithecus species, or we also discuss about the Gigantopithecus in India. Right? But we also discuss about Proconsul. Right? But the lineage or the hierarchy is to be created over here. Now, what happens with majority of these students, or what happens when we go into archaeological understanding, we just go for the main things. At least a hierarchy is to be created, how the fossil remains have been understood and how they have been brought into the Homo sapiens. That has been there. If that has been written, then these are not something which could not have been attempted. Right? And also the political economy is integrated with ecological and adaptability perspectives in biocultural anthropology. This is again a cross-cultural understanding, or we understand the overall world systems and how humans have become a biosocial organism. Right? This is an evolutionary topic which has been there. Right? So these exemplify the type of and the nature of questions that may appear with anthropology, or the new topics with anthropology. Now, over here, one of the important aspect of it is not about the type of questions which is being asked, or why it is being asked, or what is your method, or why your method is not working, all these things. Right? When you look into the aspects of anthropology, right, whether you are preparing, you have prepared, or you have started preparing, when you look into any field of it or any phase of your preparation, one thing which is much more important is how do you utilize these previous year questions. What is the basic nature of these previous year question is one thing, and how do you utilize this particular thing is the second aspect. Because when you understand, or when you try to write an answer, when you try to frame an answer, three major important things are to be looked upon into anthropology. First thing in an answer is what, why, and where in your answer. What, why, and where defines the context, the content, and the presentation of the answer. Now look up to a particular question. You try and understand the context of that particular question. Right? Try and understand what is the basic link which is being asked with that particular question. Why it is being asked, in which way it is being asked, in which direction it is being asked. That sets the tempo of the answer. Right? Otherwise, once the tempo is not being created, or if you have not framed out that particular tempo in the question, you will go into vague writing also. Right? So first thing is understanding that context, and that context appears from the question itself. We'll see with two different questions also, which we'll discuss in this video. Right? The second aspect of writing an answer is the content. Now, many a times we either overwrite the content or we underwrite the content, and that usually happens when we do not have the context of that particular question set into. And where defines the presentation. How do you write, in which way do you write, that your context and the content are into a chronology, are into sync, they are into a particular state, that they are balanced in your answer. That defines the overall presentation. This is one aspect of writing the answer. The second aspect of writing the answer, up to what limit we have to go with the answer, right? Because that is one aspect that will define your preparation. The limit of writing the answer. Limit means the limit of content, the limit of writing a particular thing, the limit of creating bullets for a particular thing, or presenting a particular topic in a particular way. That all defines the basic limit of writing that. Obviously, we have expense of different questions also, the 10 marker questions, the 15 marker questions, the 20 marker questions, and obviously the limit can be set according to that. But the depth up to which you have to go, or the shallowness that is to be created in an answer, has to be defined with this particular aspect, the limit of writing the answer. And one of the most important aspect in writing the answer is, people say, okay, fine, you're writing answer, try and incorporate thinkers, try and incorporate examples. What does it mean? What does it mean? When you might have started writing the answer, this is one particular aspect. Okay, you must integrate thinkers in your anthropology answer. You must integrate examples in your anthropology answer. In which way you have to explicitly present those things in your answer is also something that defines the nature of questions and the answers which are to be created. And obviously, thinkers are limited, the examples are limited when you write these particular things. Right? So, to frame an answer, we have to take up these three things into understanding. Right? How we do it, we'll understand this particular thing with this question which has appeared in 2025, which is, write a note about the osteodontoceretic culture and its makers. It is not only asking about this culture, the ODK culture, it is also about asking about the makers. Now, the context of this particular question. Three things: what, why, and where. The context of this particular question, when you look into, is with the explanation of what is ODK. The context of this particular question is also coming up with the Raymond Dart's understanding over here, why he has proposed, or with the advent of Australopithecus in 1920s and 1922, right? And then in 1940s and 50s, he came up with more new understandings of Australopithecus and how he brought down the basic idea of ODK over here, right? This is context of it. Another context of it is with the makers, the criticizing aspects of Raymond Dart over here, which comes from the CK brains hypothesis of criticizing this thing, or the taphonomic revolution that has appeared with CK brain also. Right? These all defines the context of it. While you are writing the answer, first aspect of it is defining that context, up to what limit that thing goes into. Now this context also defines the phases of the answer that you will write, the content of the answer that you will write. You will write about what is ODK, you will write about the Raymond Dart, you will write about CK brains hypothesis. This context plane represents every particular thing, right? The second aspect about writing this particular answer also, obviously when we look into this, how do you frame the answer over here? What you will frame in this answer, or how you will represent this particular answer. The first aspect of it, when you come down to writing this particular answer, what should be the thing? Obviously, everybody says while you write the answer, there must be introduction, there must be main body, there must be conclusion. But how, what, when, where? Present that particular thing. How to present that particular thing? The first aspect of this question should have been, or this answer should have been, we must have written, the introduction must have contained about what is osteodontocheritic culture, which it is the culture of Australopithecus, where the bones and horns, osteodontocheritic, where the osteo means bones, donto means teeth, cheritic means horns. The bones, teeth and the horns were used as the tools for hunting, and that's how Raymond Dart has proposed the basic idea of killer hypothesis, killer ape hypothesis, right? This becomes the context itself must be presented in your introduction, which is one aspect of it. What you are writing in your question, summarize that. What you are proposing in that particular question, summarize that particular thing in your answer or with the answer beforehand. Right? We are writing about this ODK culture. This has been proposed by Raymond Dart, about the hunting abilities of Australopithecus africanus using bones, dentine and the horns. That's it. Becomes the basic introduction, or brings in the context over here. Now that brings in the second aspect of it, the main body of it, where the main body would comprise of three things. Number one, defining ODKs, the major probabilities that, okay fine, Australopithecus has accumulated much amount of the bones, the horns and the dentines or the teeth in the caves. The bones were irregularly shaped, they were broken also, they were asked also, they were used in tandem with the stones as tool also. So Australopithecus was tool making ape also. Australopithecus was using these bones for hunting. Australopithecus was hunting not only the larger animals, was hunting similar type of primates also. These all things, they come up with the osteodontocheritic culture aspects also, right? Which presumably have, where the next aspect of it is the Raymond Dart's basic hypothesis, which is the killer ape hypothesis. And the killer ape hypothesis explains that this Australopithecus africanus might have been something which is a predator, right? It was a cave dweller because it was accumulating all these bones into the cave. It was a cave dweller and it was a predator. Much before humans started living into cave, humans started hunting larger animals, Australopithecus was doing it, and it was a killer ape. And the basic ideology or the basic understanding of evolution of humans into a predating animal or into something which was eating meat or was predating for meat itself came up from the idea that Australopithecus was doing it much more earlier. This is what is proposed by the Raymond Dart, and this has brought into a new understanding towards human evolution also, the ODK culture. Now second aspect comes over here with this. First, defining ODK. Second is defining the killer ape theory. The third aspect over here comes up with the CK Brain's criticism of it, which is the main body, where CK Brain started understanding this particular thing, that in the technomic revolution, that the the Australopithecus might not have been the killer ape, rather it was the leopards or the or other predators which might have accumulated these bones, because they do have an habit of doing so. They have also seen the goat analogy with various different tribes in South Africa, right? And that defines that what has happened in the overall area of excavation, or the overall understanding of Australopithecus also. The goat analogy defines that how different bones are being created, or how different bones are being broken, or while they are being accumulated, the breakage of the bones is being defined with the pattern of breakage of the bones is being defined with the goat analogy over there also, right? So all these basic criticisms which have been created by CK Brain, and then the killer ape theory was criticized and it was not accepted also, might have came down to the conclusion of all these things also, this particular answer also, right? So now we look into the perspective of this particular answer, where we have taken the basic idea of why, what and where comes over here. Why defines the context of this thing, which is being explained, or which is being explicitly written over here in your introduction. The context of the answer. Context explains what you will be writing, in which chronology you will be writing, what you will be writing about ODK, you will be writing about Raymond Dart, you will be writing about CK Brain. This is the line of the content, right? Where you will place it in that chronology itself. So the most important aspect in writing the answer or framing the answer is defining that context of the answer, defining that pattern of writing the answer, or defining that understanding, or creating that understanding in your answer. Obviously, this is a tough task when you have just 7 minutes to frame the answer, write the things, present every aspect of the answer also. This becomes a tedious task, and obviously over here, while you practice PYQs, when you integrate these things into your answer writing, this happens to help you out while writing the answers in the examination also. Another question that we look into has came from 2025 again. The political economy is integrated with ecological and adaptability perspectives in biocultural anthropology. Now, this again is a question which has created a kind of buzz regarding questions coming out of syllabus, or an interdisciplinary question is being asked. Of course, this is an interdisciplinary question, but majority of this question belongs to the ecological anthropology. When we understand ecological anthropology and the biocultural link of ecological anthropology, certain aspects where the understanding of ecosystem based population development, the effect of ecosystem from, or the overall impact on ecosystem from the resources, and the holistic aspect of the resource availability, resource consumption, and then the population development is being taken up as a continuous link in the biocultural anthropology also. So the aspects of this particular question, when we look into the context, or what we have to look into the overall aspect of this particular question, then we can find that this question speaks about, number one, the political economy, which speaks about the overall formation of social stratifications, or precisely the aspects of power center, right? The resource control, and also the distribution of resources. Of course, when we look into this particular aspect of the social development or social stratification, we obviously speak about the stratification of Karl Marx over here, or we also look into the distribution of industries, or the overall resource distribution based on industries or development. Then Weber comes into place over here, or understanding of Weber also comes into the place, and the overall global systems of distribution is also being spoken of. with the political economy, where it has been said that the political centers, they control, like capitalism or colonization, etc., they control the resource availability in a particular area, or they control the overall distribution of resources across the world as well. Right now, the resources can be either equally distributed, or they are unequally distributed also, or unequally distributed also. This creates a social inequality also, which has been one of the driving force towards another aspect of this particular question, which we can see as the perspective of ecological development. Or when we look into this, the second aspect of this question also comes up from the ecological perspectives, where the ecological development, when we understand, then the ecosystem determinism or ecological determinism speaks about the growth of any particular individual or a population is directly influenced by the resource availability in an ecosystem, also the consumption of resource from that particular ecosystem, also what has been the consumption pattern from that particular ecosystem. Right now, when we understand this particular thing, we understand the consumption pattern or resource consumption. We understand how different types of niches are created in any ecosystem. Or how the resource may remain available for different types of adaptations which are being driven, etc. They all can be taken up over here, right? With ecological perspective. One more perspective of this particular domain can be the adaptability. How the resources are being either available or non-available, and when they are available, how different types of acclimatizations or different nature of changes are being driven over here in, say, a population, or in any organism, or in uh, or any group of individuals also, and also what could be the physiological and genetic changes that can appear, right? With the adaptations which are being given. Now, this particular question simply speaks about the overall aspect of resources, where the resource ecology and resource economy both are to be understood with this particular question also. When we say the power centers or the political economy, then resources, if they are available with the niche also, they go into consumption. When they go into consumption, they create a pattern. When they create a pattern, that drives in the overall sustainability or adaptability. Which in fact would also influence the resource availability again. So when we understand this particular question, it again speaks about the overall cross disciplinary link or the biocultural link also, right? Where the biological aspect or the biological adaptations, they are driven by the ecological phenomena, and the ecological phenomena are somehow controlled by the social phenomena or the cultural phenomena or the power phenomena over here. So power economy drives in ecosystems, and ecosystems drive in the adaptability, and adaptability drives in the overall development or the cross-cultural development or the biocultural development, which is being taken up as the biocultural synthesis mechanism also, right? This has been the core idea of this particular question. Now, how do we support this particular thing, or how do we write this particular question? Obviously, the first aspect of this particular question has been identifying the context of this particular question. The context would be creating that link of power, ecology, and then the biological phenomena, which would be the introduction of it. Now, the main body, when it comes into the answer writing, main body would have been how these different things are being linked up with the theoretical or the hypothetical functions also, where we could have taken up various things like the world systems, how they operate, how resources are distributed at the global level, where if we understand this particular aspect of it, Wallerstein also speaks about one phenomena where the local populations or their development influence the overall supply of resources across the global system, across the world system, which becomes the world system hypothesis also, right? Which is being spoken of by Wallerstein. Now, another phenomena that we can look into over here is from Nancy Krieger. Nancy Krieger speaks about the exact determinism and the functionalism link in the ecosystem, where the identification of resources or the availability of the resources or the development of the living beings is directly or indirectly influenced by the resources available in that ecosystem. The kind of resources would be directly proportional or in perspective to the development that we see or observe across the populations also, right? So these two phenomena, they partially somehow link up both the things together. That is again linked up by the niche construction hypothesis. So if we understand over here the world systems and the functionalism, the ecological functionalism and the niche construction, these three phenomena link this particular thing in a theoretical aspect also, right? And obviously David Baker has also spoken about the development, disease and health related phenomena, where the availability of the resources influence the health and that influences the development of the humans or organisms also, right? So when we understand all these phenomena, the actual biocultural link can be established in the main body. Now, another thing that has to come up over here in this answer is to write about the best suited examples, where the examples of Pima populations in America, where South America, the diabetes type 2 has originated because of loss of agricultural practices which were induced due to diversion of irrigation. TB, cholera, HIV, etc. are certain types of the diseases which are more poverty alienated diseases. If poverty is higher in a particular country, then the prevalence of such type of the diseases is much more higher, which is a direct link of power economy controlling the resources, driving the poverty, leading towards appearance of the diseases, leading towards the population disturbances or adaptability of the population also. That can also be understood over here as one of the best example. Another example that can be seen is in Guatemala, where the overall existence of body structures or body functions, they are being influenced by the power economy or the resource availability. Again, we can also understand this with the epigenetic studies also. Epigenetics, which speaks about that the changes in the DNA can be driven without, or changes in the physiology or the morphology of the individuals can be driven without any change in the DNA sequence also. So heritable changes are seen in different individuals without any change in the DNA sequence, and that is being attributed to different types of these stresses. These stresses induce methylation in DNA, and methylation of the DNA changes the overall physiological responses of the individuals. Now, this stress can again be driven through various different factors of power economy, which influence the availability of the resources, which can lead towards poverty, which can lead towards malnutrition, which can lead towards reduced nutrition also, which can also lead towards the prevalence of diseases in a particular population, which can lead towards methylation and which can lead towards the responsible changes in the phenomena. So all of these, when we understand this particular thing, different niches are constructed based on the availability of the resources. Now, with political systems, whether the agriculture changes or the industrial systems change, or the availability of the resources change, or the resources are being digged upon from one area, supplied to another area, development is seen in that particular area, but there is an inequality which is being created in the area from which the resources are being extracted, or the colonial mindset or the colonial phenomena that we have seen where the resources are being drained from one area, supplied to another area, and the area from where the resources belong to was devoid of those resources, was devoid of the overall economic development, was devoid of the overall economic stratification that is to be generated. Now, if this happens, inequalities which are being generated at the social level will create a stress over environment or ecological phenomena, and ecological phenomena, if they have a stress, they will create a change in adaptability, acclimatization, genetic changes can be brought in, or physiological changes can be brought in. So directly or indirectly, power economy or control of resources in this particular world directly influences the overall development of the individual, which is the core idea of this particular question also. So when we identify what, when, and how, where in this particular question, what is the basic context which is to be set up, that could have been set up in the introduction. The main body would have been why. Why can be taken up with the interlinked phenomena which are being established over here, and where would be the basic presentation of introduction, phenomena, examples, and then conclusion. That brings up the question to a particular reasonable end also, right? So in this way, if we look into the questions which are there, questions which we can say are the previous year questions, they directly or indirectly influence the way you prepare, the way it is to be taken up into consideration. So what exactly is the role of PYQ in your preparation? The role of PYQ in your preparation would be, the relevance of PYQ in your preparation would be, obviously, it helps to identify the themes that we have in our syllabus. But don't get trapped by this particular idea of themes from PYQ, because obviously that trap is leading towards a kind of constricted learning or kind of constricted reading also. Many students, they opt in for anthropology just because the syllabus is limited. It can be finished easily, but it can be finished easily does not mean that you would not read the actual depth of the syllabus which is being desired. And we cannot debate upon the multiple aspects of syllabi when the understanding of different subjects or aspects are considered or subtopics are considered. Like, for example, your syllabus speaks about Australopithecus. It speaks about the prehistoric cultures. Now, how does this brings up to the Miocene primates, or how does this brings up to ODK culture which is being asked upon? It is to be understood. So themes, if they are being said in PYQ, obviously it brings in themes in your preparation. It brings in that idea of what is to be prepared and what is not to be prepared, or what is the exact area where we have to take it up. But we cannot be selective in the area we have chosen from the themes, or we cannot be selective in the areas which we see in PYQ, because they are the previous year questions, or the topics in previous year questions, they are constantly evolving. So the evolution of these topics has to be taken into consideration, which is one aspect of it. So the PYQ also helps us to understand how the topics are evolving, or where UPSC is leading us to, or what all different types of the topics they would be brought in. Another aspect of PYQ, why it is so relevant for you, or previous year questions, why they are relevant to you, it brings in a link between the preparation and the presentation. When you prepare, say for example, you're preparing with anthropology, you've started with unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and so on and so forth, paper 1 and paper 2, etc., etc. While you are preparing, understanding these themes, understanding the nature of these themes, understanding the depth of these themes become important. So if you link up PYQ answer writing during your preparation, and that too must be unit wise, subtopic wise, topic wise, what different types of questions are being asked, say in a particular unit, also in different subtopics, what different areas of questions have been asked, and how those questions may evolve also into what depth of that particular topic, that relevance can be brought in. So PYQs are direct link in your preparation. While you're preparing, if you'll bring in PYQs or answer writing on PYQs, or we can say detailed analysis of PYQ, that helps in bringing up your preparation standards also, and that holistically also completes the preparation. Now what actually happens, people prepare, students do prepare for a brief amount of time, say through classroom, through notes preparation, or through any form of mentorship, etc., and then they end up doing test series or practice series. Now in these two things, these are two individual aspects of preparation. The link is gone, because during preparation you also require that analysis of PYQ, so that you understand the depth of that particular topic and the extent of a particular topic that can be asked. Plus, that enhances your writing skill also. Plus, how do you write a particular answer? You need not to learn it from test series. You learn it over here while you're preparing, right? Because test series is the testing of what you have learned. It is not learning, it is testing what you have learned. And that when students understand that difference, that problem of my answer is not good, or I'm not writing a good answer, or I'm not reaching up to a particular extent of marks, or I know all the aspects of the syllabus, I have read it once, twice, thrice, I have revised it also, then to my marking is not going up. All these problems, they originate over here itself, because during preparation that analysis and link was not generated so as to create a fine ease in that answer writing. So PYQ is uttermost important, or analyzing PYQs or writing the questions for PYQ is uttermost important. But there is one more problem also with PYQ, that there are a number of questions. Every year we can say there are a number of questions which are being asked from different topics. They are being asked. How to link these questions, and to create a chronology of these questions, and to create a method where if I'm reading a particular topic, say I'm reading culture, then next I would be reading society. So there must be the PYQs of culture which are being discussed while I have discussed the culture itself, and I have written the answers for that. I have understood the analysis of that also, so that the 360 preparation for that particular topic is being driven. That link, somehow we have felt that link is being missing. So we have brought in this PYQ answer writing program at Drishti IAS. This is an online program where we have divided the complete syllabus, paper 1 and paper 2, into 20 different pre-recorded videos also. It would contain previous year questions from 2021 to 2025, topic wise, unit wise, and in a chronology, where during the preparation itself you can opt on to these PYQ questions also, or previous year questions also, can answer them, can understand the analysis of it, the extent of what should be written, how should be written, where should be written. All these aspects of writing the answer can be understood with this particular program also. Obviously, this would be valid for 6 months. You can opt in during your preparation. My advice would be to opt in during the preparation. While you're preparing, when you say you have prepared unit 1, you go for the question PYQs of unit 1. You have prepared unit 2, go for the PYQs of unit 2. Try and write those questions. Once you have seen this thing, when you go for preparation, see these videos, then start writing the answers also of those relevant questions. That will help you out in bringing your answer writing skills up to another level also, right? So this particular program is also starting up soon. You can opt on to this particular program. All the questions, they are being analyzed by me only, and they have been the basic core idea over here is to link that preparation and testing phase of these students also, right? So thank you very much for this video. I hope this was helpful to you, and you can opt on to this PYQ program. Thank you very much.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.